Okay, folks. Laura, I might need your whistle.
She's not.
I think we're okay right now. How is everybody?
Great.
Wasn't that a wonderful meal? Raven does a great job. Raven and team, yeah. Is it okay if I stand down here? Are you folks going to be bothered by that? You probably won't. Or should I go up on the stage?
No, walk amongst us.
Okay, yes, I like to be somewhat, I know your belly button level now, but yeah, so I want to be down amongst my people, We're here to talk cooperatives, right? So we gotta get together, gotta work together. So welcome everybody. We're going to talk about the history of co-ops through Farmers Union work over the years. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the future of co-ops. So get excited. Again, happy Valentine's Day. This is a picture of a Valentine that my mother made when I was a little boy. She's a repurposed art teacher, not retired. Yeah, and I think that was a lino block that she made many, many years ago, probably 30 plus years ago. So it says, "Be my Valentine swine." So there you go. There you go.
Did you raise pigs?
We did have pigs back in the day. Yeah. When everybody else did. Yeah. So, and it didn't make any money. So, want to give you a little bit of background info on the Farmers Union. I'm going to start with National Farmers Union. We're going to go into Kansas Farmers Union because I think it's important for you to know who we are and what we do. So, NFU was formed in Point, Texas in September of 1902. Anybody ever been to Point? I have. Yeah, it's a little bitty dot on the map, but they're real proud of their history as Farmers Union's beginning. We are the second largest general farm organization in the country. And a general farm organization just basically means that we represent all types and sizes of farms and farmers. And it's more than just ag. It's more than just cows, sows, and plows. We'll talk more about what that means here in a little bit. We've got about 230,000 members nationwide, and there's 22 organized divisions in 33 states. Kansas Farmers Union was formed about 5 years later in 1907. We've got about 3,500 members across the state. Our home office is in McPherson, Kansas. Many of you probably know where that is. But we all work from home, right? Or on the road. And our cars show that. Don't look at my mileage and don't look at the inside of my car right now. That's where all of the Farmers Union organized state divisions are across the country. So the darker green shows you where we have organized divisions. Some of them are combined, like I used to work for Rocky Mountain Farmers Union. That's Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico. The Northwest is currently in limbo right now. And then we've got New England up here. We also have Alaska and Hawaii, which is great. And you'll notice that there's a gap down there in the Southeast. There's reasons behind that. Come to the National Farmers Union Convention, 6th through the 9th, and you'll learn more about that. So our principles, 3 simple principles: cooperation, legislation, education. So cooperation, working together amongst each other. Finding compromise amongst each other and figuring out how we can address the issues that are facing farmers and ranchers. Legislation, obviously, we are watching what's going on or what's not going on in Topeka and Washington all the time. And then education, educating our membership, educating the public on the issues as well. Policy, this is really the foundation of our organization. It's what we're made of. I like to say it's our Bible. It's what we believe in. And it's a process that starts at the grassroots. We have county chapters, obviously, across the state. Across the country, we have our state chapters, and then we have our national organization. And it's grassroots. It's truly little b democratic. And we hash and discuss and rehash and cuss and all the things. But at the end of the day, we get a policy book that we can all stand behind and support. And that's what guides us in Topeka. That's what guides us in Washington as well. So I'm honored this year to be Kansas's representative on the National Farmers Union Policy Committee. And that work started in January and will continue until the gavel drops on March 9th in New Orleans. So that just shows our process. What's in our policy? A little bit of everything. The safety net, meaning crop insurance, technology, competition and concentration. And that's not like sports teams and, paying attention to what's going on, on TV. It's concentration in the marketplace, competition in the marketplace. International trade, credit, co-ops. Ding, ding, ding. That's why you're here. Conservation, energy, tax, rural development, and quality of life. We talked about food as medicine. We talk about healthcare in our policy. We talk about schools and infrastructure and all the things that make up good quality of life in rural Kansas and in rural America. These are all things we care about. Here's the farmer's share of the retail food dollar. On average, the farmer's only getting about 14 to 16 cents out of every food dollar that you spend at the grocery store. 60 years ago, it was half of every dollar the farmer was getting. So we talk about competition. We talk about concentration. This is where it really hits home, because the number you see at the retail price, and mind you, these numbers are not current. You could probably guess they're a little bit higher than they are right now, but it's the slide I had. And the price in red is what the farmer would get. We've got to change that. And you need to vote with your food dollar. So keep that in mind. I imagine many of you probably do already, but that's important. So here's our team. And I think one of us are here. Don, our state president's here. Mary, our outreach and education. And myself, Cammie's our office manager down in McPherson. So that's who we are. And we're adding to that team. I'll talk about that a little bit too. So cooperation works in Kansas. The role of Farmers Union, as I said, in co-ops past, present, and future. A lot of the information that you're going to see here was not compiled by me. It was compiled by Tom Giesel, Farmer Emeritus of Larned, Kansas, good friend of mine, and the honorary Farmers Union historian. He says amateur, but he is, he is a true historian. Don compiled a lot of this as well. I'm just here to present it. So if you have any beef with anybody, you can take it up with Don and Tom. So I want to talk about our history. We talk about National Farmers Union or Farmers Union. Well, our true name is the Farmers Educational and Cooperative Union of America. That's what our name truly is. We are chartered under that name, but we just go by the Farmers Union. And you'll notice that we have the word cooperative in our name, because that's how we were originally chartered, as a cooperative, which is really great. It's wonderful. But it's a mouthful. So we're just the Farmers Union. The early co-op movement started before we started. I mentioned we started in 1902. All of these folks came along way before we did. The Grange, obviously, in the 1800s, the Farmers Alliance in the late 1800s as well, the Populist Party, the progressive movement that was happening in this country back in the late 1800s. They were all big movers and shakers when it came to the co-op movement. And I love these old cartoons. This one says, clearing them out. And it's the Alliance. That's the Farmers Alliance. Here's the middleman, and it's hard to read. Those are a little fuzzy, but the Farmers Alliance and Industrial Union is actually what we were born out of. They were very active, as I said, in the late 1800s. They got too involved in politics, and it killed them. And we were born out of those ashes. The Farmers Union was the phoenix, I guess you could say, that rose out of the ashes of the Farmers Alliance. And of course, the Grange is still very active today as well. So our keys to success. These are things that we've learned over the years, and I imagine you have too, but we learn from the mistakes of others. We learn not to get too political sometimes. We educate our members about the benefits of the co-op model, and we use co-ops to build and strengthen our communities. The man there on the right is Newt Gresham. He was one of the original founders of Farmers Union. I have one of those buttons in my collection, and his daughters sold those to pay for his funeral expenses because he was pretty destitute at the end of his life. And Farmers Union members all across the country bought those, and they paid to put him in the ground. So the first Farmers Union co-ops were started, a lot of them in the South and throughout the Midwest, Great Plains. Here's one, the Farmers Union Gin in Berlin, Oklahoma. And does that say 1905? Yeah, so very early on. Oklahoma wasn't even a state at that time. It was still Indiana. They didn't become Oklahoma until 1907. And Farmers Union really took root with cultivation. The cooperative model prospered and grew. And I think if you look up there at the top, it says, yes. Well, I'm going to read it from here. Maybe.
Yes answers the Farmers Union.
Yes answers the Farmers Union, which did $150 million in business last year in 1920. $150 million. Think what that would be in today's money. We're talking billions, if not trillions of dollars. So they spread like wildfire. These are all examples of co-ops. And of course, a lot of times we think about the grain elevators, and many of those are still standing to this day. A lot of the old, white cement, concrete, steel, all of that, they're still standing. Some of them still say Farmers Union on them. We don't own them anymore. We don't have those, but we got them going. We got them started. The Farmers Union State Exchange. I like to think of this as today's Walmart or today's Amazon.com. You could get just about anything you needed from the State Exchange. And if you look at this button here, this is one that Tom owns, all the different things that you could buy there. And then these were magazines that you could, if you were a member, they'd send you one and you could go through it and look. It was amazing, the things that you could find, the things that you needed for your home and for your farm and for your business. And at really wonderful, reasonable prices for back in that day. There's the State Exchange building up in Omaha. So they had their own headquarters. And then they became what we now know today as CENX, Central Exchange, CENX, and CHS. Used to be Central Harvest States, or CENX Harvest States, I think. And now it is the largest ag co-op in the world, right? CHS. The Farmers Union store. So you had your State Exchange office or building up in Omaha, and then you had little Farmers Union stores that were co-ops in your communities all across, the states. I'm not certain where this one was, but I love this little line underneath our daily bread. We want more than daily bread. We want sugar and coffee and rice and fruit and meat and vegetables. It was your grocery store, but it was also where you could go and buy twine for your baler, and you could buy, supplies that you needed, if you're going to raise chickens or if you're going to put up fence or whatever you needed, they likely had it. Again, it was the Walmart of the day, so to speak, but better. This is the Farmers Union General Store in Oldbrook, Kansas. It is now a restaurant. And they have this picture hanging up inside there. It's cool to see that building's still active, still taking care of people. And this is the Farmers Union grocery store, the front door. This was from Centralia, Kansas. And you can see the co-op logo there, shot by the sign of the co-op. So the Farmers Union Jobbing Association, that's a weird name, isn't it? It's a strange name. What does that mean? Well, it was a cooperative association as well, organized for the purpose of buying and selling for union organizations in a large way. And they were not in the business to deal with individual people. It was with organizations that wanted to buy cooperative. So they were based in Salina, Kansas. My great aunt, Donna, worked for them when she got out of school at Brown Mackey. She did all the book work for them back in the day. So all of the grain elevators that were Farmers Union grain elevators would send their, tickets and all that to the office in Salina, and she would do all the book work and everything. She is going to be 95 in July, and she still talks fondly about her time working for the Jobbing Association. So it was established in 1914. This is info from Don, by the way. 37 farmers, each bought one share of stock. KFU bought 400 shares and got it to $20,000. It was based in Kansas City. They had an office in Salina, by the way. Grew to be the largest grain handler in the U.S. and handled 39 million bushels of grain in 1960. It was later changed to the Farmers Union Jobbing Association, then became Cooperative Marketing Association, which then evolved into Farmarco, and then became the grain division of Petroleum and Fertilizer Co-op Farmland Industries, which of course is no longer. They went belly up, but that's the history behind that. In 1918, though, it was on the brink of failure. So early on in its day, it was struggling. At the state convention, the delegates came up with the additional capital, $2,000 to keep it going. John Trumbull and Don, who was it? Do you?
He was state president for some time.
Okay.
And he started the National Farmers Union Insurance.
Okay. So state Kansas Farmers Union president started the insurance side of it. He recalled that day back in 1918. He said that when he reported to the delegates that their experiment into cooperatively working together had failed and it was ending due to lack of funds, the room was full of, quote, hard-bitten farmers crying all over the room. If you can just imagine that. And these farmers, who were all as broke as the Jobbing Association, coughed up enough money to carry it on. And obviously they did, up into the 60s. So the Farmers Union Grain Terminal Association, I mentioned our grain elevators. Many of them are still standing today. The old Equity House at the right, I like that. Equity is a big thing, even today. The KFU hybrid seed corn, that was located in St. Mary's, Kansas. It was in existence from 1945 into the 60s, and they marketed seed corn all over the central U.S. Had 1,400 acres of seed corn grown in the River Valley, Kaw River Valley. Farm credit. Anybody ever use farm credit on your farm? Yeah. It was born in Kansas, not too far from Larned, actually. And there's a time capsule in the farm credit office down in Wichita that was planted out there where the birthplace was. And it's helped a lot of farmers get through a lot of tough times over the years. Did you know there was a Farmers Union Cooperative Hospital in Elk City, Oklahoma? This is a stop certificate for that. The Farmers Union stockyards in St. Joe, Missouri. Don, you hauled cattle there when you were growing up, your dad, and he did. We hauled cattle to the Omaha stockyards, and there was a Farmers Union, buyer up there for many years. Of course, that's all gone now. Here's some unique Farmers Union co-ops. There was a Farmers Union funeral home down in Arkansas. Actually, it's still there. It goes by a different name. And as my friend Tom Giesel says, they're the last ones to let you down.
He loves that.
Got to throw that one in there. We built our own co-op tractors back in the day. There's still a few of them running around. I tried to buy one in Missouri here a few years ago and didn't get that, but they're pretty cool. Fun to still see those around. And that's the Farmers Union Funeral Home down in Arkansas. It's now the Roller Farmers Union Funeral Home. I really love this quote. Let the words be agitate, organize, educate, and cooperate. I mentioned earlier what our principles are: education, cooperation, legislation. In our founding, though, it was agitate. And, when you think about agitating, what do you think? Sometimes you might think about getting mad, right? Or whatever. And no, it's causing movement. What's the thing in the center of your washing machine? It's an agitator, right? It gets the dirt out. So we got to agitate people. We got to get them excited about things. We got to get the dirt out. We got to organize people. You got to organize their hearts and their minds about the issues. If you're having a problem, you got to get together. You got to talk about it. You got to work it out together. You've got to educate and you've got to cooperate. So there's unity in cooperation. Again, another wonderful cartoon where united we reach the top. And you'll see we've got a ladder over here, legislation. We've got a ladder over here, cooperation. And then you've got the guy down here. I think that's
education.
Education, yeah. So what do? Well, they're having a hard time. We can't get to the top. Well, we combine all of our ladders. We put everything together to get to the top, get over that wall. The cooperative ladder of self-help. You see a pattern here, right? Yeah. You need our help. We need yours. Success comes through cooperation. You got to work together. You can't just stand down here and bark for help. You got to work. You got to work at it. The cooperative viewpoints. I love this cooperation little ditty, poem, whatever. So I'm going to read it. You have $1, I have $1. We swap. Now you have my dollar and I have your dollar. We are no better off. You have an idea, I have an idea. We swap. Now you have 2 ideas and I have 2 ideas. Both are richer. What you gave, you have. What you got, I did not lose. That is cooperation. At the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. Here's another good one. The handle won't work itself. You got to do some work. There's only one way to get results. And then this one, the cooperative, meaning people, because we all know co-ops are made of people versus the corporation made up of capital. The co-op is organized people. The corporation is organized capital. The purpose of a co-op is to serve its members at cost. The purpose of a corporation is to serve the public for profit. And all of that as well. Results on a co-op, wealth is equitably distributed among the many. And on a corporation, it is centered in the possession of the few. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yeah. So co-ops champion the person and the soul. The one person, one vote. One of the, Rochdale principles. Corporations champion the dollar. Corporations have no soul, no conscience. I remember a presidential candidate a few years ago saying that corporations are people. I would beg to differ. They aren't. So let us reason together. This was a motto of the Farmers Union for many, many years, especially as we were getting started. We were really kind of born out of also the trials and the struggle from the Civil War. And we were still dealing with that. And as you'll see at the bottom here, if this were in color, one of these doves would be blue and the other would be gray. The blue dove, the gray dove, coming together with olive branches, reasoning together, coming together through compromise to accomplish our goals. And that banner actually hangs in our DC office. So that's the history. I want to talk now about the future. And you heard a little bit, thank you, by the way, for the plug earlier, on our program, our project, Homegrown Prosperity, where we're teaming up with our friends over across the line in Missouri. Yes, we do get along, and yes, we can get along, even though we've taken something from them here recently. All that good stuff. But these are cooperative solutions for rural communities, and we're going to talk about that. And of course, our friend Donna down in Wichita at Common Ground Producers and Growers, we're going to get into that as well. But it's a 2-year rural cooperative development initiative led by KFU, Missouri Farmers Union, Common Ground, and our lead partner on the national level, NCBA CLUSA. We make a heck of a good team. We really do. We got a grant from the Patterson Family Foundation, thanks to them, for seeing the importance of co-ops. And the initiative strengthens our cooperative ecosystems, expands community-owned economic opportunities in underserved rural counties across Kansas and Missouri. And that is the coverage area. So everything that you see that's shaded in that tan color is where we are able to do our work, because those are considered the rural areas of our states where the Patterson Family Foundation does its work. So if you're from one of those shaded areas, if you work in one of those shaded areas, if you know people in one of those shaded areas, and if you think that co-ops could be beneficial to any of the work that you do or want to do, that's where we can do that work. It's not to say that we won't host events and education programming and things like that in more urban areas, just so we could pull more people in, especially if it's in a central location. But we want to make sure that we are serving those folks who live in those rural areas and want to do good cooperative work there.
Nick, could you go back one slide?
Yeah. Yep. So our purpose, the Homegrown Prosperity Project provides a structured path for rural residents and emerging groups to move from awareness of co-ops, readiness, and then early stage incubation. Through education, diagnostic readiness tools, and targeted technical assistance, this initiative will identify and support up to 10 cooperative ready groups over the project period. Of course, we'll take more than that, but we've got to get to 10. We've only got 2 years to do that. It's a lot of work. We're going to need your help to do that. These are the core components: co-op education and literacy. We realize that we're going to have to get out there and we're going to have to educate folks on what co-ops are, because not everybody knows. And if they do know what a co-op is, they might think, oh yeah, the grain elevator, or the place where we buy feed. And another Tom Giesel quote that I love is that co-ops are not just concrete and steel. Again, they're people. They don't have to necessarily have a structure to be considered a co-op, but they've got to have people. That's what makes co-ops. So we're going to talk about those cooperative principles and models, and I'll share some of those that are already existing. Financial structures, governance, and leadership. You've got to have bylaws. You've got to have a board of directors. You've got to have all of those things that make it up. Community outreach and education. So locally driven recruitment efforts to surface rural innovators and cooperative development opportunities. We're going to get out there and we're going to find all these people, all these ideas. Readiness assessment and selection. So the two-step process will use self-assessments, secondary readiness reviews to identify groups prepared for deeper incubation support. 4, that incubation and technical assistance, early stage co-op development services, including business planning, governance development, financial strategies, feasibility analysis, and support. And that's where NCBA CLUSA really comes in on this, because they're the true experts. They have co-ops figured out like you wouldn't believe. Yes, we know a lot about co-ops, but they bring a lot of that expertise to the table that's going to be very helpful to us as we move through this process. And we meet with them on a weekly basis and have since the beginning of this project. So they are fully committed to us when it comes to this. So why co-ops? Obviously, you build local ownership and shared prosperity. You strengthen economic resilience, you create quality jobs, and you keep wealth rooted in the community. I can't think of any better reason to be doing this, especially at a time right now, especially in rural Kansas and rural Missouri. So our expected outcomes, we're going to increase that cooperative literacy across those rural communities. We're going to strengthen local leadership and organizational readiness. We're going to support the launch of viable co-op enterprises, and we're going to contribute to long-term rural prosperity through community-led solutions. Those business opportunities that we talked about, and I know, Alex, you mentioned many of them when you were talking earlier, and there were questions about that. But obviously, childcare, housing, grocery co-ops, home care, shared purchasing, all of those things. They also support the rural economy through ag and producer co-ops that many of us are probably more familiar with. But here's a couple examples that are right here. The Merck, right here in town. How many of you go there and shop? Yeah. I got a burrito there yesterday morning, a cup of coffee. I'm not even a member, but they don't care. They'll take my money. So Prairie Glen Townhouse. Is anybody familiar with them? That's in Manhattan, Kansas. That's why it's purple. I had to throw that one in there. Go Cats. We need a new basketball coach, by the way. So if anybody's looking for a job. KC Pre-K Cooperative. I would just Google it and I found them, And yes, it's in Kansas City. But yes, it's a co-op. And why can't I do that in Belleville, Kansas, where we need good childcare? And you probably need good childcare in Paola, right, Janet? I mean, all of these places all over our great state and states, I should say, Missouri too, that are struggling with all of these issues. How are we going to get young people to come back to the rural area where they grew up if we don't provide the services that they need to bolster their lives? We're talking quality of life. I have a friend in the Kansas City area, and I like to use this as an example, who had twins, and they were in childcare up until just this last year when they started school. It took her entire paycheck to cover the childcare. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your whole paycheck to make sure that your kids have care during the day. I'm sure now she's feeling great because they're in school. They've got a lot more money to live on, but we can't have that. We can have this. So this is where co-ops really shine. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to highlight these. And I've talked with Laura a little bit. Thomas, KC Food Hub's a co-op, farmer owned. We're going to come and visit these co-ops. We're going to do tours. That's one thing that Kansas Farmers Union is really good at, right, Mary? We can do hella tours. And we're gonna,
Threaten me with the good.
that's right. Don't threaten me. We're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna show what the potential is with co-ops, and that it doesn't just have to be in an urban setting. We can do this in rural areas too. So here's our team. I know I've mentioned them already, but we've got Common Ground. Donna, please wave. Give her a big round. And Donna's really the reason this is all happening, because she already had the established relationship with NCBA Clusa. They came to her. They said, we want to do this. Will you help? Donna came to us. We said yes. And so thank you. Thanks for me. So, of course, KFU, Missouri Farmers Union. I don't know if we've got anybody. Is there anybody here from Missouri? I know I met a woman earlier.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Kind of, sort of. Yeah. Almost kind of, sort of.
yeah. My
but-
husband accidentally joined Missouri Farmers Union on our wedding night. He got so excited after my dad's speech about joining the Farmers Union,
Yeah.
and then he joined Missouri.
Her dad literally got up and gave a speech about Farmers Union and how you should join, and people are on their phones, joining. Yeah. It was something great. But
Is Tom here at Missouri Farmers Union?
I don't think Tom Goodman's here. I didn't see him anyway.
No? Okay.
Yeah, Mary Hendrickson's here.
Oh, okay.
So say hi to Mary.
Yeah.
And then, of course, NCBA Clusa. We couldn't do all of this without their guidance and all the wonderful things that they bring to the table.
And Alex sits on their board of directors.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. So thank you, Alex. Yeah.
Awesome.
So here's our contact info. If you are interested in this, if this is something that you could see going back to your community, your county, your region, whatever, get a hold of us. Because we're gonna, the ball's rolling, the cat's out of the bag, the horse is out of the barn, whatever you want to do, it's happening. And we're excited. We really, truly are. So get our info, do the QR code thing with your phone. And we're hiring. So
Cool.
we built in through this grant some funds to bring somebody on board. And I'm really excited about this. So we're hiring a co-op development specialist to get out there and do the work, because, we can't do it all on our own. We're a pretty small shop, you saw that, right? There's only 4 of us at KFU. And Donna's only got a handful of people in her crew. And Tom's only got a few people in his crew at Missouri. So we're going to bring somebody on board. And it's 2 years. But we're thinking beyond 2 years. We're thinking maybe next year we need to get a little more money. We need to build on this for the future. This is something that we want to see investment in for the long term, because we believe in co-ops. We believe they are an answer to a lot of the challenge that we have. I'll get your question in just a second, okay? There's the QR code to get access to that job description if you need it. We love co-ops. Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? I had one back there first.
Oh, I was I was excited about this idea, but it turns out Douglas County is not in your service area.
Right. Yep.
So, I'm wondering if, but I live in southern Douglas County, close to Franklin County, but not close enough. I have to pay those damn Douglas County property taxes. But my question is, can cooperatives be built across county lines if one of the participants, or if any of the participants live in a county that you're not servicing with this program?
I don't see a problem with that. I mean, I think it's, the co-op should be, housed within a county that can be covered by the grant, is what I'm thinking. So as long as you've got people that are supportive, I don't know that county lines really matter. I mean, that's probably a question we'll need to talk to NCBA CLUSA and other folks about, but I don't personally have a problem.
And is that a hard, or you anticipate exceptions when you've got rural people that live outside of those urban areas in those counties?
We'll look into that.
Okay.
Give me your info before you leave today and we'll look into that. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I had two questions.
Yeah.
So as a co-op, how do you handle the licensing aspect? Because like for the farmers market, I'm involved in too much, but I'm here as part of my conservation district.
Okay.
I also run our farmers market in the area.
Yeah.
We have to have all the licensing that our vendors have.
Yeah.
As a co-op, do you have to have the same licensing as the people who are in the market? Since you're not technically reselling it or being responsible for this, well, I guess you are kind of responsible for the
Yeah.
sales.
Yeah.
So are
Mike,
you? Yeah,
Thomas, do you have an answer to that? I see you're nodding your head.
Yeah, you could be considered a grower's agent, depending on how you're structuring it.
It would probably, if as a co-op, you'd be selling the farmer's produce or whatever.
Yeah,
So then that becomes wholesale from that perspective for the grower, which isn't a problem, but for all the value added products, it is a problem from what their licensing requirements get lifted up to. But from a produce perspective, it's a lot easier.
For my answer to your question would be our choice or our duty and what we're going to take on is when you get involved with us, we'll help you through the steps of that.
Yeah.
And we will provide you with the education you need for the co-op.
Okay.
And that would be part of our job description.
I saw they just released the updated food to consumers PDF from K-State.
Okay.
So that was just updated last month.
Okay.
The other question I had.
Yeah.
How do you get, I'm thinking big ag, because we have a lot of big ag
Mhm.
right around where we're at. How do you get the farmers involved that are stuck in like the FSA and the operating loans loop? And they have to have so many sales by certain dates and all that to make money back instead of trying to support the local food system.
Boy. That's a tough one.
Because that's right where we're at in our community, is we've got the big farmers that are stuck in that FSA and the operating loans.
Sure. Yeah.
And they have set dates that they have to have that money by.
Right. Right. Well, it isn't easy. That's for sure. If it was, it'd be done already. And Thomas can probably speak to a lot of this because he's working with farmers through the KC Food Hub, which is a farmer-owned co-op. There's great examples out there. And you don't have to do it overnight.
Right.
If you're looking to transition, if you're looking to move into specialty crops, which I think is kind of what you're hinting at,
Yeah.
And getting off of the treadmill that tends to be conventional commodities and all that, there's ways to do that. And I know there's groups like OCIA that can help with that. Talk to Jack Geiger about that. They can help. There's so many resources out there. And you don't have to switch everything over all at once. That's not the thing. I mean, if you've got 1,200 acres, you're not going to do that overnight. But you could start with 5. You could start with 10 and go from there. So, and I'm thinking Ed got some comments he'd like to make
I
on
think
this
just
too.
reinforce what Don said. Project's about building cooperative awareness, readiness, and early stage incubation.
Yeah.
So these are the questions
Perfect question.
that would come up during that process of building awareness, readiness, and
Absolutely.
incubating the co-op.
Yeah. And it's retraining your brain, because your big ag, guys, your commodity growers, when they think of co-ops, they think of the grain elevator and they think of where they get their seed and their fertilizer and all that. They may not be thinking about growing food for people, They may not be thinking about a childcare co-op in town, or they may not be thinking about how are we going to save our grocery store. But co-ops can be the answer to that. They can help be the answer. So yeah, it's a little bit of a reframe, so to speak.
So just to clarify,
Yeah.
this is any type of cooperative model that might work for a
Yeah.
rural community. Doesn't necessarily have to be food, although it certainly can.
It doesn't have to be food. It doesn't have to be healthcare. It doesn't have to be childcare. I've got a friend that wants to open a bookstore back home. And she's worried about what's it going to cost to get started? Do I have to buy a building? You know, all the things that I have to do. And I threw it out to her the other day. I said, what about co-op model? You know, where you go together with a group of other people that love to read, that love to buy books, that, you know, care about that, want to open a little coffee shop in there. That set on the light bulb. She said, great. She said, I know just exactly who I need to talk to. And she's already connecting with a local business owner, or building owner, I should say, to see about renting that space, get things moving. So yeah, anything you can think of that might benefit from a co-op.
Is the premise, Nick, that in rural communities, you'll never have the economies of scale that a for-profit venture may have, right? So that's one model. Then there's a nonprofit model, which is its own kind of hamster wheel.
Sure.
So this is kind of that. A cooperative model is perhaps not so dependent on a big population-based economies of scale. Is that sort of the premise of this?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. Yes, Norm.
2 questions. Any additional background on the Patterson Foundation, and will there be grants available for small farmers and food producers?
Good question. I don't know a whole lot about the Patterson Family Foundation other than the people who it's named after. I believe the husband was involved in Cerner when it first got on the ground and running. Unfortunately, they both passed away at very young ages, but left a sizable fortune. And their kids have taken that and turned it into what is now the Patterson Family Foundation. And it's a significant amount of money.
And if you just go online and Google the foundation, they actually give a good background.
They have a great, and they are completely and totally focused on rural.
I think they're in a funding cycle right now too.
Yeah, they are. They're in a funding cycle right now. Now, your other question about grants, are you talking about through this program itself or through Patterson?
Through what's coming to Kansas Farmers Union.
We haven't talked about that, but we could. That's something that we could definitely.
Plans on how to spend this money and how much money is Farmers Union receiving.
Yeah, we do have plans on how we're going to do this. Yeah. I'll be glad to talk to you more about it. Yeah. Norm's one of our members, so he can give me help. He's good at that. So, but you and I need to talk after this because I will be glad to visit with you more. Okay.
It seems to me that every community in Kansas has a housing problem, big, small. In our rural towns, we have a lot of substandard housing. We have a lot of need for housing. So, yeah, this has potential, but my question is, around the country, when I read about this and that example of housing co-ops, sometimes they're also connected with, or the land is owned by a land trust, which can help make it more affordable. Do we have the land trusts that we have in Kansas? Have they integrated these possibilities at all, or are they the kind of land trusts that could integrate with some kind of a housing co-op?
I don't know.
And also, there's land banks in some
Right.
towns.
Yeah, there's some
all these
communities
little,
that have land banks.
you know.
Yeah. That's a great question. I don't know the answer. Caitlin Stanley was here last. I don't think she's here today, but she's with the Kansas Land
Yeah,
Trust.
right.
But that's something I think we should visit with her.
Some
more.
other states have, more developed land trust fingers,
Yeah.
around the
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
I just read an article about, I think in Olathe, they're doing some housing.
Habitat for Humanity
Yeah.
is doing some housing, with the land trust model.
Right.
Oh.
Yes.
So ground floor stuff that we want to talk about, do you come to our community? Do we go meet somewhere to talk and see what What's what?
Yeah. So the question is, getting started on the ground floor, how do we go about this process? I mean, if you want to set up a virtual, get to know each other, talk first, great. Otherwise, as soon as we get somebody hired to do this work, that's going to be their job. They're going to be working from the road primarily. It's going to be a lot of travel. We'll reimburse your mileage. We'll take care of you. And you're going to get a paycheck. So don't worry about that. But that's going to be your point person. I mean, we're going to be there to support that person. Obviously, we're the team that, is there to help them and to make sure that not only are they successful, but you are successful as well. So getting them into your community, getting to know you, understanding the challenges that you're facing, that's going to be a big part of this person's work for the next year. And then determining next steps, what do we do from here? How do we build this out? If your business or whatever it is you're looking at doing looks to be a viable cooperative model, then moving it forward into that next step for that following year. So,
Well, they got rid of our economic development that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
And she was instrumental in putting on the spring farm tours for us. We have a lot of little farms that's been going for years and years, spring and fall farm.
Yeah.
And so we all got together and then just created a little nonprofit. It's just in the beginning stages so that we can continue. The counties wrap their arms around us on it, and other places too. But I was just approached last week or the week before about some of the hospitals maybe wanting to do have a place that they can write a script. They got a patient that needs this kind of food or whatever, that's and the thing that the farmers came to us about was we want to sell our stuff locally. After the spring farm tour is done or the fall farm tour, then they don't really, and some of them are older and they don't do social media and things. So
sure,
that's what we would be interested in thinking about a hub or something. I don't know what that all looks like. So within that, right there in Paola, Kansas, we are Miami County. So our farms are all over Miami County, but Paola being in the center, and I have some people that have empty buildings right there on the square.
Sure.
Talk to them already, just kind of trying to learn and see.
Yeah.
So what we could bring and what that all could to help the farmers. There's quite a few that are all.
Yeah. Make sure I have your info before you leave, and I'll give you mine too. Okay, Jack?
So where are you at in the hiring process, Nick? And you have a ETA when you're gonna have somebody on the ground?
We are right about in the middle of the hiring. In fact, we are, as of today, in the middle of the hiring process. So it closes on the 28th. Right now, we do have some good applicants coming in. I'd like to see some more. Maybe you too could work for Kansas Farmers Union. So that's the plan. And then we're looking at, if we feel good about things, we're going to be moving forward probably mid-March with our interview process. And my hope is we've got somebody starting early April, somewhere in there. So we've got a lot of support, like I said, from NCBA Clusa. They've got staff that are helping us, get the ball really rolling until we get to that point where we've got somebody. But yeah.
I wanted to go back to the young lady's question about meetings.
Mm-hmm.
We are planning to do a couple of April free informative meetings virtually. So we'll have some of those dates here the next maybe week or so. But if you're interested in us doing a free information virtual meeting set up in your area, contact Nick and we'll get together with our training and technical assistance people, and then we'll put you on the calendar. So we want to plan 2 in April.
Yep.
And maybe 1 in May in person. So, yeah.
How are we doing on time? Do we need to get out of here?
Okay. Oh,
Anybody know?
1:30. It's 1:30.
I think 2 o'clock is the next.
Oh boy! Wow.
Where would you publish?
What else would you like to talk about?
We're going to publicize those meetings probably on the Kansas Farmers Union website. Because all the partners are coordinating through Kansas Farmers Union.
So the information is probably the best.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, you know, Donna's gonna promote it through Common Ground and all that, but it's all gonna live on our KFU website, so.
You'll put her out in touch, contact.
Yeah, it'll go out in constant contact, so if you haven't already signed up for our regular, email subscription and all that, do that either through our website or let me know and I can get you plugged into constant contact and we can, you know, make sure you're getting all this info, and you know,
Buy a membership.
buy a membership. Yeah. Hope that's okay, Tom, you know.
But
we're-
if they're interested, I've got a sheet of paper here, you can put your name and email in
Yeah.
there and we'll have your information.
And we have info on the grant itself and the co-op development specialist job description out on the KFU table, which is right by registration, so,
That's for them to sign.
yeah.
Nick,
Yes.
another question.
Yeah.
What in Kansas, what's the relationship between the farmers union and the state legislature in terms of, is there ever any support beyond, you're doing a great job, you know what I'm saying?
You mean, are we telling them they're doing a great job?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a big NO. Yeah, not now, so.
Back to the agitation piece a little
So,
bit.
yeah.
We've been very supportive of Medicaid expansion since the first effort. So that's probably one of the things we take pride in.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Medicaid expansion's been something that we've cared deeply about for years. It's been a special order business for us for many years. You know, if you dig into our policy, and it's not that, it's not like NFU's policy. NFU's like 230 pages, ours is like 30 pages. And it's kind of vague, but it's vague for a reason because we got to be open to interpretation. We got to be able to work with people. It's the end goal and how we're getting there is how it really works. And so, for instance, I was in Topeka on Thursday. We were there for the Kansas for Conservation Day at the Capitol. We're supportive of the bill that would create a state-funded conservation program. And it was wonderful. You know, we have this huge coalition of 49 different groups and individuals. Kansas Rural Center's part of that. KFU's part of that. Kansas Farm Bureau's part of that. You know, anytime we can find ways that we can work together in a coalition, again, cooperatively, for the benefit of all, that's a good thing. And this bill would do that. And we've moved further now than we ever have with this bill. And it's because we've had to compromise. Last year, we had $60 million that we wanted for this thing. That's a lot of money. Now we're asking for 16 million. That gets people's attention.
Yeah.
When you give up that much, when you make sacrifices, you can walk into those offices that maybe a year ago said, no, not so much. Now you walk in and they say, okay, we'll talk. So we are making ground there. There's other bills right now that are pretty concerning. Obviously, there's a pesticide bill that we're watching pretty closely that we believe creates liability immunity for large corporations, multinational billion-dollar corporations that frankly don't need any more protection than what they've got right now. Farmers are the ones that need protection. You know, they're the ones that we need to be looking out for. As I said in my testimony the other day, I work for farmers. I don't work for ag chemical companies.
Tell them about Kathy's bill. Kathy Sharplaz was a real leader in the Kid Trulson.
Yeah, Kathy Sharplaz, who lives in Ottawa County, down near Minneapolis. Many of you probably know that a large swine unit is moving into that area, right along the Smoky Hill River. So a lot of concerns about environment, a lot of concerns about health, a lot of concerns about air quality, water quality, all of those things. But this company, which is based in technically Nebraska is where they are headquartered, quote unquote, but it's really out of Minnesota, is coming in and they're going to have this swine unit and all that. Well, they are set up as a limited liability partnership, and the Kansas corporate farming law does not include limited liability partnerships because those didn't exist when that law was created. So there's a loophole there. They were able to get through that loophole and get established. Now, Kathy is leading the effort in Topeka to not allow for that anymore. So we've got a bill, she's got a bill that they're moving forward. We had a wonderful hearing on that in Senate Ag the other day. Of course, all the big ag groups, you know, that aren't us are the ones opposing it because they want to see the corporate farming law gone completely. They want to see local control, county option, the last protection that we as citizens have for protecting our communities and our farm ground and our water and our air, our environment. That's the last thing protected, right? They want that all gone. We don't. We believe in local control. We believe in the county option. Your county commissioners should be able to vote, whether it's 3 or 5 or however many you have. The people should be able to petition to vote as to whether they want this or not. And so that's basically where things are on this. And it's amazing to me to see where some of those allies are in the State House. Folks that I never would have guessed. You know, the chairman of the Senate Ag Committee, he and I don't agree whether the sky is blue. And yet the other day in that hearing, he was talking about, you know, living near a swine unit and not being real happy about it.
Not in his backyard.
NIMBY, yeah, right? But I found a friend, you know, at least on that issue.
Yeah.
Maybe not on anything else. But it's interesting to see where we can find commonality. And especially at a time where I don't know if any of you are paying attention to what's happening in the State House, but it is like Dodge City. There are no rules. It's Katie bar the door because things are moving fast, and that's not good government. I don't care what anybody says. When you introduce a bill one day and the hearing is the next, there's a problem. We are doing things too fast, too loose, and problems are going to happen along the way when you do that. And I'm getting on a soapbox here. So
I specifically wanted to get you going.
I know. You know, Norm started it, but you're going to finish it. It's agitation, getting the dirt out, but it's the truth. And this is not good government. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, they have to be there for 90 days to get their job done. But at the end of the day, the only thing they really have to do is pass a budget. That's the only thing that they are constitutionally required to do. And they're doing everything but that. So we're going to have an ugly, ugly budget that's going to hurt a lot of people. We're going to have a lot of crap bills that are going to hurt a lot of people. And things are going to get done in the darkness of night. And that's not how government should work. But here we are. And guess what? It's an election year. You can do something about it. So take that for what it's worth. But we do have friends, and there are some people down there that are doing good work. There are. There just aren't enough of them. And the same goes for Washington. So, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? We still got time. Yes.
Well, first a quick comment on something. I can't remember the name of the number of the bill, but somehow it's going to affect conservation, or it's proposing to affect people's ability to put their land in. It's conservation. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it's something important to know.
There was an easement bill the other day. I don't have all the details on it, but I can get that. Yeah.
And then I have a more general question about this program that you're working with Patterson Family Foundation.
Yeah.
So since you're farmers union, is the focus going to be about ag, or could people
No.
and, like, I was really inspired hearing someone talking about healthcare collectives or cooperatives, and it just really got my mind to rolling about, you know, that I mean we're just in such a desperate state with healthcare right now. My husband and I, half of his paycheck goes to pay for our health now. And so I'm just very excited about that. But or health cooperative something that would fall under the umbrella of what you're doing?
Right there. Is that working? Yeah. Childcare, housing, grocery, home care. So one of the other things we've got to talk about is we have an aging population in a lot of our rural areas. And a lot of people want to be able to age in place, stay in their home. And if they're going to be able to do that, they've got to have care. They've got to have home health care, that kind of thing. And in like my county, Republic County, our health department doesn't offer that service anymore. But there are entities that do. There are, nurses that have started their own home health care businesses. And they go around and they service not just, that county, but they might service a region. That's a possibility of starting a home healthcare co-op, those kinds of things. So no, it's not just ag. We've got farmers in our name, but as I mentioned earlier, we care about quality of life in rural Kansas and rural Missouri and rural America. So what does that mean? Well, it means childcare. If you're going to get young people to come back to your community, you've got to have those services for them. Housing. It was mentioned earlier, getting, housing co-ops developed, especially for seniors. So that frees up a home in a community so a young family could move into that home. And it's less burden on that senior citizen. They don't have to worry about mowing the yard anymore. They don't have to worry about when the pipes, are clogged or anything like that. If you're in a senior housing co-op, there's somebody there that your cooperative membership dollars are paying for to take care of that. Those kinds of things. The grocery co-op. Have you ever been to the Merc? I'm sure you have. Yeah. I mean, that right there is a perfect example. All of those things. So the sky's the limit. And it's not just ag. It's really anything that you could come up with. Like I mentioned earlier, bookstore, you name it.
Nick,
Yeah.
why don't you share with them the Roundup bill? I'm just kind of on the phone.
So that pesticide bill,
2486.
yeah, that's that liability immunity bill. We've got some allies, again, Elizabeth, some friends that you might not expect, who are looking at that. And actually the Supreme Court is getting ready to rule on labeling and immunity and all that, because there have been so many lawsuits over the years of farmers that have gotten sick, and unfortunately farmers that have died because of, exposure to chemicals. And these labels can be written in a way to not protect the farmer, but to protect the company. And they've been allowed to do that for a long time. And so now the Supreme Court's getting ready to rule on that. And that ruling will come down sometime between now and July. But in Topeka, they want to push through this bill. I mentioned earlier the one that got the introduction one day and the hearing the next. Yeah, it's that one. You wonder why, right? So luckily, we kind of came out and said, no, we don't like this. KRC came out and said that, Sierra Club, a number of other groups, and said, let's not get the cart before the horse on this deal. If the Supreme Court's going to rule on this anyway, why are we doing any of this right now? Because say their ruling comes down in June or July, whenever, and the work that you've done is negated by that ruling, then you got to come right back next year and do it all over again. So don't do this. So we've got some friends, maybe not as many on the House side, because it's already flown through over there, but on the Senate side, especially in the Senate Ag Committee, where luckily we've got a lawyer on the committee, and they're few and far between, which is sad. We've got a lawyer shortage anyway in Kansas, especially in rural parts of the state, and that's another bill that they are working on. But to have a lawyer on that committee who's looking at this and throwing up red flags and saying, no, I don't like this. This is not good. We don't need to be creating any more immunity when it comes to liability issues on this. So we think it's a good idea to just stop, not proceed, see what happens in the Supreme Court ruling, and then, depending on how that goes, pick it up next year. So I have hope that we can at least get that slowed down, if not stopped. Turnaround is next week. So things are moving fast. So we don't have a whole lot of time when it comes to this. But we were told that there wasn't going to be a lot on ag this year. There's a lot happening on ag this year. Yeah.
What's the bill number?
That is
2486, I think.
I'll get it for you, Doug. I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll
House
get it.
bill, Senate bill, or?
It's already sailed through the House. Yeah, the House bill's already passed. I need to pull what the Senate bill number is, but I'll get that for you before you leave.
Okay.
So. Okay. I've talked a lot. I'm kind of tired. Yeah.
Say there's a group of a half a dozen people get together, you know, discuss forming a co-op for some issue, begin meeting. Well, does the grant offer any, small amount of support funds for those kinds of groups to support their organizing?
Yeah, I believe we've got some money built into that to do that, right, Donna? Yeah.
Nick, I'll just quickly say my brain's spinning on this one. A lot of foundations, unfortunately, are not set up to fund cooperatives.
Sure.
They just
Yeah.
So my suggestion would be maybe to this room and in your conversation, think about partnering with your local community foundations. So if there are efforts that cooperative is doing that align with the foundation's mission, whether it be food or housing, you know what I mean? It'll be easier perhaps to get some grant funds to support that effort.
That's a great idea. How many of you know if you have a community foundation back home? Yeah, quite a few of us do.
We get $70,000 a year from the Patterson in Dickinson County.
Dickinson County does? Yeah.
They do matching, Patterson does for community foundation.
Right, yeah, and I know the Dane Hansen Foundation does as well. I'm over on that side. I'm just on the edge. I'm one of the lucky 27 or so counties. Republic County is part of the Dane Hansen Foundation, so we do get matching funds there as well. So that's very good.
But
Thank
yeah,
you.
family foundations can fund whoever the heck they want.
Yeah.
Others cannot.
Yeah, that's,
Doesn't mean they don't want to help. They just
Right.
can't.
Yeah.
But they could to a community.
it's all
foundation.
based on how you're structured
Yes.
and all of that. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. Yes, here's our newest Kansas Farmers Union member, by the way. Give him a big round.
News on you liaison with some of the local emerging, I think Kansas Reflector,
They're awesome.
if you work with them.
We get along really well.
We do, yeah. Tim Carpenter's a good friend of Farmers Union, and the Reflector.
And for cooperative models, it's now standing on ideas here,
Yeah.
that seems like a good opportunity.
Yeah, in fact, there are some news organizations that are co-ops, the writers, it's like a writers co-op and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Those people that got laid off on the newspapers to get out, right?
Yeah, yeah. I would imagine there's some folks formerly with the Washington Post that might be considering a co-op. Maybe we can help them. They might need to move to Kansas to do it, but we'll. Maybe last question.
Would you touch on the fact that we are also soliciting technical and training assistance providers in the area? If they're not applying for the job position, we can have some training and technical assistance.
Absolutely. So if you didn't hear Donna, we are soliciting for those folks who have cooperative backgrounds, knowledge, technical assistance and all that. I'm looking at you, Ed Resnicek.
Yes.
There's people all over this state that have good knowledge of co-ops, from governance, leadership, all of those things that help make that up. We're going to need all of that knowledge base to make this happen. And maybe you're not at a point in your life where you want to take on a full-time job like this and run the wheels off your car and all that. But maybe you can be helpful in other ways. So if that's the case, if you're interested, or if you know somebody who might be, put them in touch with me or any of us on the team, and we'll be glad to put you in as part of this. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The roundup bill is 2476.
2476 is the bill, House Bill 2476.
I can't find anything.
I don't think it's got a bill number yet over there.
86 is toilet training.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, toilet training. There you go.
Is that the House bill?
2476 is the House bill. Yeah. So anyway, thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Nick.